What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Future of Real Estate podcast. My name is Ellis Hammond, your host of this awesome show. Today, I got a special guest for you, my friend Christian Bishop, who is the director of Twitch Properties, an Amazon company in the gaming space. And so, a really fascinating conversation about how Christian sees the impact of gaming, literally a massive industry impacting the real estate world, how gaming could ultimately impact and influence the rise of rental property and rental property in the metaverse, and how entertainment has always been the form to attract people, and how he sees that impacting the real estate industry, especially in the metaverse. Talked about how he allocates his portfolio currently between real estate as an active investor and other things like NFTs and crypto. And then lastly, we talked about how to develop an open mind. The space is changing so much and so fast, and how Christian and myself put ourselves in places, rooms, situations to continue to grow, to learn, and to be on the cutting edge of the future of real estate. I think you're really going to enjoy this show. Let's get into it. Christian, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, glad to be here, Ellis. Thanks for having me.
Dude, so we met back in Vegas, I don't know, last year, man, during Mastermind we attended. And honestly, man, I knew when I was launching this show, like, I got to have Christian on this, because our conversation sitting at that restaurant or bar, whatever it was honestly, for me, probably the most interesting, intriguing conversation we had, or I had, at the entire Mastermind event. And it was, your background in esports and gaming, and telling me and kind of, realizing how massive a market this virtual real estate world could be. Do you remember that story, or even that example you used specifically? You were telling me there were some massive amounts of money coming into this virtual real estate space.
Yeah, look, man, first off, thank you. I feel the same way, man. I really enjoyed our conversation, catching up and getting to know you a bit, kind of heard about your journey. And as soon as you reached out, I got tremendous respect for you. So it was a no-brainer to come here and hang out with me today, man. So glad to be here. Yeah, I remember our combo, man. Look, we talked about video games. It's a $100 billion market. It's bigger than TV, music, and film combined. It's got some of the world's most powerful IP in the world creating worlds all around these games, right? So whether or not it's Disney, it's Warner Brothers, Marvel IP, the list goes on and on. Worlds are being created, and there's real estate in these worlds that are now being monetized, and people are building on it and developing businesses and really creating awesome communities.
It's so interesting, man. I was just talking with a guy who's building a metaverse, and he's like, listen, if we're going to really build this, we can't just go and create advertisements. Like, we have to create around entertainment. And it seems, the best form of entertainment early adoption is most likely to be gaming. And so, I guess let's just start there, man. I mean, in terms of gaming, and like, how do you see gaming adopting now that kind of this metaverse world, right? Because gaming is not new. I mean, that's been around for forever, right? I mean, in terms of a form of entertainment, but now that we have this metaverse, like, let's start there. Like, tell me, I mean, first of all, let's go back a little bit. Twitch, like, what are you actually doing? I mean, this is like the biggest, I mean, if anyone's got insider information, man, on gaming, it's anyone who works at Twitch, especially in your role. So just kind of talk to me, man. Like, what does a real estate guy not know, or need to know, maybe is a better question, about the gaming world right now?
Yeah, man. For me, since we, last got together, I joined Amazon, came over as director of Twitch Properties for them. So I manage a team that oversees first party and third party monetization of Twitch properties, right? That could be our events like Twitch Rivals, TwitchCon, we focus on monetizing that.
Right.
We have third parties that we work with, like esports teams, big events and conferences. And then we're always looking to create and develop new properties for our audience and the community too. So it's exciting times, one of the world's largest companies, innovating and doing great things. Definitely fingers on the pulse of the space and trying to pay a lot of attention. You talked a little bit about gaming, and I think it's evolution that's been around a long time. It has, but it runs parallel with the advancement of technology, right? So you look at what bandwidth and infrastructure did with fiber technology, making homes more compatible for we have fast internet speeds to do things like this. That pushed gaming and elevated and introduced streaming, right? And it helped birth this content creator kind of economy and market. And you're seeing that now, I think, with blockchain and Web 3.0, that's providing this whole new subset of technology and smart contracts that will serve as the building blocks for the next generation and genre of games. And what does that look like in entertainment broadly? And then for us as real estate investors and people that are paying attention. I always say, look, I make a living paying attention every day, right? Just consuming and trying to identify the next trend and opportunity. And I think it's something that we all have to pay attention to.
Let's talk about this trend and opportunity. It feels similar to, and I guess it probably is similar. I mean, and I think we're just kind of catching up in some ways. I remember when I first got into real estate, man, and I heard about Bitcoin. And I heard it, the first time I heard about Bitcoin and crypto was from a real estate crowd, an audience. And it was like, don't invest in Bitcoin. Like, this has got to be the most skeptical thing on the planet. And that was probably like, Bitcoin was probably, I mean, single, for sure, single thousand digits, maybe even earlier, whenever that was. And it feels like in some ways the metaverse is, some of the conversations I hear are very similar to that. But yet you were one of the first guys to open my eyes to like, dude, there's billions of dollars being poured into virtual real estate. I mean, as a real estate investor, what do you think about that? Do you think it's too early for guys like you and me to jump into this? This is really just kind of institutional play, or do you think there's opportunity early right now?
Yeah, I think there's opportunity. I think we both like real estate because we have a tangible physical asset that underlines our investments and can cash flow. But it's not speculative, in my opinion. I think
Right.
we do the math and we can find things that we feel really good about. And that's powerful and certainly contradictory to some, NFTs and these JPEGs and buying these virtual items. It's definitely different. But I think that there are some really core strategies that still make sense, right? Recognizing opportunities, seeing if the math makes sense, and looking at the market, the liquidity, and how these things are moving, and the kind of money that's being invested, the transaction volume on some of these exchanges. We're talking billions in transactions that are being spent every day, right? There's a lot of money that's exchanging hands here. So I think we have to work hard to continue paying attention. Guys like you and I, people like you and I, need to put ourselves in the right rooms with really smart, hardworking people that are leading in this space. And I think by doing that, by putting ourselves in these rooms, by paying attention and learning, which is what I'm focused, spending a lot of time on, is just learning, we will continue to recognize opportunities just like we do with our real estate portfolios and our, what we do with our careers. So I think step one is pay attention, learn, consume. And then there's going to be opportunities to make some moves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why this show exists. It's why I'm having you on. It's why I'm like, dude, let me get to this Twitch event, right? Because I'm like, I know no other shortcut, man, but to just get in the room and learn. I think our industry has been a culprit of anything. It's just not paying attention. It's kind of writing off what's out there, because it's exactly what you said. Like, we see, the reason we invest in real estate is because of the tangible value. We don't have to speculate where our cash flows come from. But dude, you think about all this gaming, like in some ways, like the speculation is, it's not like investing in a coin hoping this goes up in value. I mean, what we're seeing in gaming right now, and maybe explain this to our audience, and even to me, and somehow how this works. Physical dollars, dude, get spent on a gaming platform, right? Or in a game, or in a universe, which could be a form of investment and cash flow. I mean, give me an example of like what this looks like in your world, and why so much money is flowing into this right now.
Yeah, man. That's why I like the play to earn side, right? So if you remember chatting, I was always like, look, NFTs I'm less interested in. The question for me is always utility, right? Unless it's like NBA Top Shot, where you get, access discounts on tickets, you get early access to season tickets or courtside seats or jerseys. There needs to be utility and value for me, more so than just an image to be in a club, right? There has to, I'm not there. That doesn't work for me. The cool thing about play to earn in games is, I already know the power of video games, and I know the amount of people that play it. Tons of people play video games. We're always connected. One of the things I like about play to earn games and video games is that you got hundreds of millions of people playing video games all around the world. And no matter what, video games is going to continue to be a thing, especially in a pandemic, right? Like gaming boomed, gaming stocks all went up significantly. There was a ton of money made. Consumption of content has continued to go up. It's continuing to boom. It's not going anywhere. Video games is just getting larger. And what's really powerful about it, and I always tell people, you want to recognize trends, look at what your kids are doing. look at where young people are going, because that's
Right.
the future, right? Like we are all connected to our devices, and the
Right.
kids are playing their games. And what's happening is the people that don't get it, the CMOs, the executives, they're aging out. Their generations are aging. And then you have people like you and I that played games growing up now are becoming investors and are in positions to make decisions, and are raising kids, right, that are also going to be games. So the generational development and growth is going to continue to compound the rate of gaming's expansion, and it's going to continue to be big gaming, period. And then when you incorporate blockchain technology and having an ability to actually monetize your gameplay, own land, own assets, and make money being great at a game, and then being able to trade in these in-game currencies, and then connect with people all around the world like you like to do anyway, and play with your friends and be a part of new communities around amazing in-game experiences, it's only gonna get even crazier.
Could you like do a breakdown? And the reason I love having you on, man, because you understand the real estate, because you own real estate, like you invest in real estate properties. We met at a real estate mastermind, and yet you also swim in this completely different world of like gaming and crypto and whatnot too. So like, would you break down 2 minutes how important the blockchain, like what, not maybe what the blockchain is, but how important the blockchain is to what you're talking about, and why you can actually own things on the blockchain, and how that can translate to future revenues and whatnot, and how that can be important to what we're talking about as investors, real estate investors, owning real estate in the metaverse in the future. Like, will you break that down, or maybe how you make sense of it, and why you see this as such a revolutionary thing that's transpired in the last decade?
Yeah, so I'm doing a deal right now with a fund. We're putting in a few $1 million into creating a guild and a DAO, right? It's a group, that we're going to manage and oversee. Well, lack of a better name, Ellis Meta Guild, we'll call it. And we put in the money and we acquire millions of in-game assets, and that could be like real estate in the game, right? So say you have a world or a solar system in a game, and there's different planets, and a planet will sell for $1 million USD. And then you can go into the planet, and then if you own the planet, you can sell continents, right? Like Earth. And then the person who buys the continent can sell states. And then stations can be put on the land where players would come and play. They can hunt different, animals that drop different loot, or mobs or creatures. They go through different dungeons and, experiences. They may PvP. And anything that's done in their land is going to drop gear. It can be taxed, right? So you could get 5% off anything that's done, or anybody that farms on your land in these games. And that kind of continues to exacerbate up the water flow accordingly. The percentages may, get smaller, right, as you get larger, right? The person who owns the planet may get 1% of everything done, so it changes. But the blockchain technology is like, it's created this decentralized platform to be able to, whether or not it's move money, right, where no one controls it necessarily. And there's a set of like authentication components and that work through the chain. And depending on what coin you're using, there's different rule sets for that. There's different gas fees and expenses that come with making transactions and doing things, or using a specific chain to execute a specific set of actions, right? Like, I'm going to send you money, Ellis, with Bitcoin, and there's a certain cost to that, and it takes a certain amount of time. Or you could be doing something around sending someone a piece of gear in a game. Or, for example, and it'll make it a little complicated because I'm giving you different examples, but there's a game called Axie Infinity, which is owned by Sky Mavis, and they just raised like 250 million off of like a 5 billion valuation. And
Yeah.
And in this game, I have 3 characters. Okay, I bought for $1,200, $400 each of these characters, and I have people in the Philippines, and I have a couple sets of these accounts that are playing my character every day, earning about $100 to $200 USD a month, where in the Philippines, that actually outperforms what they could earn from a livable wage. Like, them playing my characters actually rivals what they can make out in the Philippines. And they play my character, I get 60% of the revenue, they get 40%, and they're happy with that. And they make money to pay their bills for their family. For me, it's a cash flow generating asset where my core characters are also appreciating in value as well, just like real estate. Wow. So my characters are appreciating, and the exchange of the things that are happening in the game is all on the a certain currency that the game uses. backed by the blockchain.
That would be a webinar right there, man, to see how you do that right there. That's fascinating. So let me ask you this, man. Like, I mean, how does this, the revolution of all of this change, or has it changed your real estate investing strategy? I mean, clearly you're still investing in physical properties, but do you find yourself allocating more dollars into things that are virtual based, and kind of explain to me what your portfolio and investment strategy is right now?
Yeah, my definitely it's taken a bit of a hit in terms of my real estate portfolio, my focus at least. Before I was per heavy aggressively, it's like 75% going into real estate. Now it's down to about 60% because I am dabbling, but it still is majority by far. So a big chunk of my free cash flow and money that I have is still going to real estate. And then it's going to like investing in startups, right? Angels writing some checks. And then in addition to what I do, with play to earn games and my investments there. The cool thing is that because it's what I do, I don't always have to use a ton of my own cash in the gaming space. So I'm able to raise money and raise capital and use other people's capital to scale and do the things that I want to do, because it's my core competency, right? Like video games is like what I do, versus working with, and then I invest on my own casually for my own wealth generation opportunity for my family personally, right? I don't seek to go raise funds from other real estate investors, like you do as an operator, because it's what you do. So on the gaming side, I kind of take your approach and I raise capital with partners, bring them in. And I use kind of my core competency to help people make money.
Man, where, like, talking about learning, I mean, where would you, like, where are you showing up to learn this? I mean, I think you're so right. Like, we got to get in the room. I mean, what are the opportunities out there to learn? I mean, where would you begin to, or where are you? I mean, I feel like that we're a great case study of this. Of like, where are you putting yourself at to get ahead of this, to know what is the future of real estate, right? I mean, because I think you and I would both agree, I think things will change in this industry over the next 20 years faster than they have in the last 200 years. I mean, we're in that critical moment right now. Where are you putting yourself at? Like, what rooms, what spaces, what type of people over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I'm always looking for great masterminds that I can join and participate in. Things have changed a little bit with the pandemic we're all dealing with, but even having conversations like these, right? Taking one-on-one calls with people that are building great things in the space that need help. It's taking a lot of calls with founders, just one-on-one building relationships, sitting in a lot of Discord servers. Like when you think about blockchain and play to earn games, like Discord is like a very central communication hub. And you can just jump in these servers and just observe, be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
And just pay attention. And frankly, you'll get spammed, right? Like you'll get spammed by a ton of other projects. There's a lot out there and it's becoming a bit of a mess in terms of how many people are popping things up, like get rich kind of schemes. But I'm paying attention a lot. YouTube channels, podcasts, reading books, like really like heavy, like blockchain, trying to understand the actual tech side and fundamental like components of it, right? Like to really try to get it. And I'm not an expert and I'm still certainly learning. I'm a novice. I'm not a blockchain person at all at scale, but going to a lot of these events, man, and showing up to things. There was like a massive like NFT New York blockchain event that happened like a month ago. Like everyone flew out there. So like who's who was there. Gary Vee was out there. People that run like gaming for YouTube showed up. A lot of like my friends and people that have like these big projects, and people are just throwing around capital. They're like, hey, can you build a community? We're fund. We've got 10 mil to put into a new, NFT project. And it's just money's flowing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing though, man, like and why, like, this is why we're gonna have this conversation, we're going to continue to stay in touch, is not to like, let's just stay on physical. I mean, I say physical real estate, like in the world, like I can go and drive to the building type real estate. Even to purchase that in 10 years, man, is going to be on the internet. Like the fact that we can discount all of this as much as we want, but the reality is like the way we purchase and transact on physical real estate will completely alter over the next 10 to 20 years. And so, your understanding of the blockchain and learning that now, I mean, dude, I truly believe this. And I think 10 years, even though that's not a lot of time, I think it's the right timeline. I truly believe if you're not on the blockchain and you're syndicating deals, it's going to be very like people are going to be very skeptical of you, right? Because why would you not be on something that is so transparent that can track every single dollar of the fund, of the investment, like you know what I mean? So like it's such a worthwhile um activity you're doing of just learning and being in the space and seeing what's happening, because in 10 years all these guys who are not doing that are going to be coming to Christian and be like, dude, help me, and you're going to be worth a lot of money at that point, right? Or you're the value of your knowledge and your education is going to be incredibly valuable as well. So that, anyways, I don't know what you would say to that, but I mean that's how fast I see this
I,
progressing. I mean, I'm in this world of syndication and I probably see like this a new blockchain fund going up every single week, man. Like someone else trying to create a different syndication platform on the blockchain so people can raise money for that. Literally, like
yeah, I think it's a
totally.
big one. I think it's a big one. I had a buddy about a year or 18 months ago. We talked about blockchain, and I think he bought the domain like Bitcoin Realty or something. And I was like, you have to get into it. I was like, you have to give people away, even just to give people that own and hold large crypto balances an opportunity to participate with physical real estate and underpin their investment and asset. That alone is just clearly going to be big, right? Is I do syndicate, even if you establish a full REIT and started to own physical real estate and assets and monetize it backed by digital currency investors, that on a simple level is there. And the transparency is there, like you said, around the chain, but also from smart contract piece of like, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens, built into the transaction, right? Where it's like automatic. And it's established as a part of the kind of the coin. So I agree with you, man. I think it will continue to be big. I think the big question will be what happens with the bank, right? Like what happens with banks and how they choose to adopt it. Because like we know so much of what we do, is dealing with financing and capital at scale to underwrite a lot of our deals. So it's like the banks really coming along, or it's going to be new banks that come about if they're slow moving, right? And then
Dude, I just can't. I mean, here's the thing with banks, man. I mean, I deal with banks. I'm sure you do too. I mean, we deal with banks every day in our business. I see it as a dying industry, man, because they are so slow. It's so hard to move money where the rest of the world is moving so fast. And I understand like security and stuff like that, but my gosh, man, like if I think you're right. Like that idea of new banks or new way of banking is, and Bitcoin is helping with that and will help with that for sure. But as more people adopt that, man, that's going to be a changing industry. We're not even going to get into that, but that would be that's something to continue to keep an eye on too.
that's what will really blow it up, man. Like
Yeah.
when you and then you think about like financing under that ecosystem, right? Like what does that mean, right? Can you finance? Can you start to leverage and hedge some of your crypto, like some of your currency? Say it's Bitcoin, say it's Ethereum, right? Like who knows what coin, but what can you do with that? Like, can you start to borrow against that at scale to do some of these things? We'll see as the infrastructure starts to develop. And that's what's crazy is like we're in the early stages still, where a lot of these things are being built out. And it's going to be too complicated for a lot of the people in positions of power now and like in the real estate market to really pick up on. So when you talk about like the knowledge gap and like that advantage, that's how guys like you and I and people listening to this find a way to win. Whereas like right now, they control massive portfolios with tons of access to capital and real estate. And, we're over here picking up the deals that we can get, competing with behemoths. But now with technology's development and advancement, it almost like levels the playing field and resets things a bit. And that's wild. Think about.
So what type of real estate deals are you buying right now?
I just funny enough, don't talk shit, dude. Everybody will troll me, but I bought a couple condos in New Jersey, on the water. So I
Okay.
went and grabbed a couple of those. Like I'm on property in like different major cities, like for my family, like from a condo point of view, whether or not it's like high rises or on the, I just something I want. But going through a pretty big remodel of one of my quadplex multifamily units here in Vegas. I just got back hanging out with my contractors. Was looking at a commercial building in LA, actually on Ventura Boulevard, that I was checking out. Seeing if there was an opportunity with commercial. They were still pretty aggressive with what they wanted, so I thought I could get a bit of a better deal. So I don't know if we'll see that one through, but I'm always looking, man. Always
Dude,
looking.
Vegas, man, like you talk about a crazy hot market. I mean, does this, what do you think is different in Vegas right now compared to, 10 years ago when the bottom fell out of that market?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I I think there's been a ton of money. If you look at Zappos CEO, he came in and invested, a ton into like downtown Vegas. I think the infrastructure around Vegas, whether or not the boring tunnels that are being built by Elon underneath Vegas, the convention center they've invested a ton of money, has been put in the Raider Stadium. There's just so much development that's gone in and investment into the city. And that's like a ton of foreign money, right? Even from China, there's just money from everywhere coming into the city, and it's landlocked. That's what's crazy. It's that it's actually surrounded by mountains. So they're actually having to dynamite and blow in. And that's just basic supply and demand. Is there's less real estate. There's less real estate to build. There's less space. So with that, they're having to dynamite in. It's just natural, right? I think it's continuing to grow. I think that you're seeing, you still have like your low income laborers, right? Working at hospitality, but the middle class is expanding significantly because corporations are moving in, right? You got companies like the UFC that are based out of here. In addition to like all the casinos, you have tech companies that are coming here. Zappos moved here, years ago. It's continuing to just build. So now you're getting that middle class that levels out, with, of course, your higher earners as well that come here for tax sheltering purposes, like me, right? You save on 10% income tax that I had in California, right? Like you have to deal with that, and it's an advantage, right? Just it's a 45-minute flight. I can get to you in an hour, and I'm saving on 10%, income tax from the state of California, right? And I'm an LA guy. It's kind of crazy to think about. So there's some key advantages that I think have made Nevada.
That makes sense.
Yeah, pretty.
And I think you talk about from a long-term perspective, which as real estate investors is typically how we're thinking. I mean, even if there's some type of fear or whatever that draws down prices in Vegas, what you're saying is that the infrastructure from a long-term perspective of the value of this city has increased, and people are not going anywhere. Like there's nothing about Vegas that's going to cause them, to not want to be there 10 or 20 years. Maybe water, that might be an issue for all of us in the West, but
for all of us, yeah, water is a big one for all of us. That's an issue, but I think it's infrastructure. I think it's the continued development of the wage gap in middle class that's continuing to expand. And then I even think like the train they're building from LA to Vegas, right? Like these things are big and industries are developing. It's not just gaming and hospitality in Vegas anymore.
Well, Elon builds that train fast enough, man. I'll come out there and see you more. But again, you put out a lot of good content on Twitter, man. Where can folks follow you? Is that the best place? I mean,
yeah. Look, Christian Bishop on Instagram or Bishop Christian on Twitter. Just come check me out, hang out.
So with Twitch, you guys hopefully have a big event coming up in August. If COVID doesn't ruin that, that might be a good place for folks to find you or catch up with you.
Yeah, sure. I'll greet you out there. Come hang out.
Yeah, come hang out with us, guys. San Diego, whenever they come out with that event, that's going to be a lot of fun. So, dude, I really enjoyed this, man. I'm excited to keep this conversation going. These are the type of conversations that I want to continue having over the next couple of years. I see them as important, and mostly not just for the conversation, but for the relationship. And I think that's a big takeaway for me today is like, you got to put yourself in the room. You got to put yourself in rooms that stretch you, that are maybe different from what you've thought about for a long time, and that don't necessarily pay off right away. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the big key in this. Like, you're sitting in Discord chats that just to learn, see what's out there right now. And I think to be patient in this space and kind of see where things begin to turn is going to be really key.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree more. Sometimes you just don't know how that light bulb's going to go off, like what's going to be the spark for it. Sometimes it's a bit of a few things that you've learned, right? You've seen something, you heard something from this room, from these people over here, and you connected with that dot, and it gives you a whole fresh perspective. But not only are you making great content, man, I think providing value to others, but you're also documenting this. So I think it'll be cool, right? We look back in this years later, 5 years, 10 years
like
later.
We didn't know squat, man.
Yeah, we were dumb as shit, dude. We were talking about blockchain, we didn't know anything.
Yo, what were we talking about?
But it's cool as we'll have some pretty big boats that we're laughing about it on. So
no doubt, man. No doubt. Well, dude, I'll see you here in San Diego, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.